Welcome, Ray. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you, Jonas. It's my pleasure.
You teach elementary school band, is that right?
I do. I teach general music to fourth and fifth graders, and then I also teach beginning band. So they learn the flute and the clarinet and the trumpet and the trombone, and in fourth grade they get to choose which of those they want to play for 2 years. And I have those instruments right over there.
Oh, wow.
Yes,
And trumpet is your main instrument, is that right?
I dabble in several instruments, but the trumpet is the one that I perform on.
So when you're introducing the kids to these different instruments, like let's say the trumpet, how do you introduce them to the trumpet?
So on any acoustic instrument, there needs to be a vibration to create the sound, and that vibration comes from my lips, kind of like that. And then that vibration gets amplified through the shape of the trumpet, and the air is moving all the way through, right? And if I move these valves around, it actually changes the length of this giant wrapped up tube. Now the trumpet, if you unwrap it, is about 6 feet long, which is kind of hard to imagine like this. But when I use the valves, that tube gets longer. For instance, if I put that valve down, it allows that air to pass through this tube. Whereas if this button is up, the valve is up, it can't go through that tube, right? So that makes the trumpet that much longer. If I do this one, it makes the trumpet that much longer. If I do this one, it makes the trumpet that much longer. And of course, you can combine these different valves to make all sorts of different lengths. So let me demonstrate just that right here. Now, as I was moving those valves, the trumpet was getting longer, even though you can't actually see that happening, right? The other way that I can make sound change pitch in the trumpet is by increasing my firmness of my mouth and also increasing the airspeed that's going through the trumpet. So watch and you'll see that actually I'm not moving my valves at all to make these pitches change. Right? So if I combine those two principles,
Awesome. Thank you. I know that you are passionate about improvised music, right? And how does improvised music involve kind of playfulness for you? And then would you be willing to give a demonstration?
absolutely. So when I'm improvising, or when any musician is improvising music, it's really just similar to anything else we as human beings are improvising. Whether we are walking somewhere but not knowing exactly where our feet are going to step, whether we're speaking to somebody but not knowing exactly what word's going to come next, but just letting it all flow. It's really the same with music. Ultimately, we're just trying to play and use the word play in the strongest sense, right? Explore what our mind might come up with next and let the instrument also lead us into something else.
Are you up for just doing kind of an improvisation for a couple minutes? Beautiful. That was really nice. It's a little bit of a cliche, but I'm going to ask you anyway because it's a cliche for a reason that we learn so much from our students, you know? And I want to know how teaching music to kids has helped you develop as a musician?
Wow. You know, music at its heart, when music is at its best, there is a sense of wonderment happening at all times. And I think the longer I've gone through being a musician and practicing music and trying to hone my own craft, I can tend to get very analytical about the way that I think about music. What's happening with the harmony? What's happening with the technique involved in playing that note on the trumpet, for instance? And what I love from teaching my students, whether they're middle schoolers or high schoolers or even college students, is oftentimes a sense of wonderment that they give me when they're hearing something or learning about something for the first time. It reminds me that really music is about reacting to sound and finding curiosity in every single moment of it. One thing that we've done recently in my classroom is looking at music technology, synthesizers, and learning about sound waves and how sound waves work and why certain instruments make different sounds, not just because of their physical characteristics, but how those actually look in terms of the way that sound is moving into our ears. And I love the intersection of music and music technology because I think it's a huge frontier that has changed the music that we hear today versus the music that was heard 50 years ago, and certainly the music that will be heard 50 years from now. So, music technology has been shaping music, popular music, and possibilities in music for decades and decades, but really centuries, all the way back to the beginning of music, if we think about the way that different musical instruments are created. But I have a set of guitar pedals that I love to play with the trumpet. Now, electric guitarists know guitar pedals very well. And guitar pedals are each different types of music technology that can make a sound change. And what many people don't realize is that you can pass any sound through guitar pedals, even if it's not a guitar. You just have to get the cables right and the microphone right and all that sort of thing. So I figured out how to do it with my trumpet, and I've been using these little boxes of music technology to make my sound kind of like a trumpet, but totally different. All right, let's try this.
That was awesome, by the way. Could you tell us about? There was one pedal you were using that like suddenly you were. It was like you were five people. You were like there were a bunch of notes happening. How did? What was going on there?
So I have this pedal which is brand new to me, a guitar effects pedal called the Maris Hedra. And I actually don't know if I'm saying that right. It might be Hedra, because I've only seen it in print. It has three pitch shifters. So the sound that's coming into that pedal, I can send it up or down in pitch below or above the note that I'm actually playing. So whereas I can only play one note on the trumpet at one time, this pedal allows me to play four notes. One that's me and three that the pedal are playing. Not only that, Jonas, but it also can delay that sound so that it doesn't happen right when I play it. So I might play da, and then like half a second later, the other notes burst out of it too. Da, 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 right? Very cool.
It is very cool. I like to ask our guests on the show, first of all, what's the best way that people can support you and find your work? And then, second of all, is there an organization that's near to your heart that you'd encourage people to support?
Yes, yes to both those things. My music is all online. You can search my name, Ray Larsen. You might put the word trumpet after that or music or something to find me and not another Ray Larsen. I have a website that's raymondlarsen.com. That's Larsen. But if you spell it any old way, I bet you'll probably find it. And I have a lot of albums up on the internet that anyone out there can check out and enjoy. And I love the streaming service bandcamp.com because that is, in my opinion, the best way to support artists is and musicians specifically is to find their music on bandcamp.com and listen to it and then buy it because that money goes straight to those musicians. And oftentimes there's CDs or vinyl records or tapes or t-shirts that you can buy there too. So that's a great way to support people. And when I think about organizations that are near and dear to my heart in music, I think about Seattle Jazz Ed, which is a really incredible education organization in here in Seattle that is helping to educate young people in jazz, and especially people who may not have an easy access to an instrument or easy access to a really world-class band program. So they find incredible educators and bring those educators in and give students instruments and make it happen.
Well, thank you, Ray. That's awesome. I really appreciate you spending this time with us today.
Thanks, Jonas.